be great, because the facts and the data and the evidence are, on my side and not yours. Trump frequently accuses the far left of uh, Trump frequently accuses the far left. Yeah, apparently, Business Insider, is that your definition of a biased source of information? Are they biased to socialists with an agenda? Trump frequently accuses the far left of inciting violence, yet right-wing extremists have killed 239 victims in the last 25 years, when Antifa members haven't killed any, according to a new study. New research based on 900 politically motivated plots and murders in the U.S. since 1984 found only one person's death in the last 25 years was linked to Antifa or anti-fascist, and the person who died was the attacker. In comparison, over the same period, 229 murders were linked to the far right. When the label was broadened anti-fascist to left-wing violence, it found 21 victims had been killed since 2010, compared to 117 in right-wing violence in the same period. Jihadist groups were responsible for 95 people's deaths since 2010. A database which was compiled by a think tank called the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which I suppose is a completely it's a biased source apparently, because you can just dismiss it out of hand, because if a biased source, and even if it was a biased source, you can't just dismiss it out of hand, because even if a biased source gathers data and such, and that data can be verified, then a verified fact could be true even if it came from somebody who was admittedly biased. The database, which was compiled by the think tank called the Center for Strategic and International Studies, was launched after Trump's administration spent several months stoking the possibility of left-wing violence, especially during the George Floyd protest. Seth Jones, a counterterrorism expert who helped create the data, told The Guardian, left-wing violence has not been a major terrorism threat. He said the most significant domestic terrorism threat comes from white supremacist, anti-government militias and a handful of individuals associated with the Boogaloo movement that are attempting to create a civil war in the United States. President Donald Trump has accused the far left groups of inciting violence, but in the last 25 years, no murders have been linked to anti-fascist. By 329 murders have been linked to the far right. Yeah, that's right. Now, but this was back in July. This is a little bit of a dated article, so who knows what it is now. But just leave it like that. I like those statistics because they don't go well for you, do they? They don't play well for your side of the aisle, now do they? My side, at least it doesn't kill people for the most part. Yours loves to murder people. DHS warns of Trump is gone, but the threat of right-wing violence under his watch, remains more. Proud 3%, Antifa, where you at? This is my country now. We have to vote the way that you want us to, or we'll kill ya. Well, I'm not backing down, even in the face of that. That's the United States, made it through President Joe Biden's inauguration with any major act of violence is a relief. But the fact that we've had to be seriously worried about it to the point of deploying 25,000 National Guard troops to secure Washington, D.C. illustrates the threat the far-right violence is here to stay. Indeed, on January 27th, the Department of Homeland Security issued a bulletin warning about the threat from right-wing extremists will persist in the weeks following the successful presidential inauguration. That extremists might be emboldened by the January 6, 2021 breach of the U.S. Capitol building in D.C. to target elected officials and government facilities. A country that once stood up as a model of liberal and democratic stability is now beginning to reckon with the fact that it's a serious risk of a major wave of political violence. Federal agents have been warning about a surge of far-right violence since at least 2009, but Trump's malign influence supercharged the threat. Trump's years have seen a flurry of deadly right-wing violence, from the murder of Heather Heither, who was a hero, and the guy who killed her was a monster who deserved to die for doing what he did. Yeah, that's right. I stand with her and her family. Fuck him! 16 pipe bombs mailed to prominent Democrats and media figures, and the mass shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue, and then the Capitol assault, a literal attack on the democratic process by an armed mob fueled by bigotry and conspiracy theories that had no validity to them. All just bullshit and lies. As Biden's presidency begins, Americans are faced with the possibility that we are entering a new era of political violence, one that Trump and his party have stoked for years. There's no way to know what's coming, of course. Experts on terrorism and political violence disagree sharply amongst themselves on how dangerous things could get, but there's clear reasons for concern. We haven't seen what I would call a sustained terrorist campaign in this country since the 1970s. Today, there's probably a higher risk at any time since the 1970s, says Ian Berger,